Hello and welcome to the Disruptive Innovation Festival, a 3-week-long virtual event that showcases the latest ideas, technologies and innovations that are reshaping the future of the economy. My name is Seb Reed. I'm a member of the technical and facilitation team here at the Disruptive Innovation Festival. I'm also an author at Circulate, a circular economy and other disruptive trends related news website. I'm really pleased today to be joined by Martin Charter, the Director of the Centre of Sustainable Design at the University for the Creative Arts in the UK. And he's going to be talking to us today about ocean waste innovation, specifically around repurposing fishing nets material, I believe. And I know that he's very keen to get your thoughts, your comments, your questions during the next 45 minutes. And the best way for you to provide those is in the chat window facility, which if you haven't heard already from me or haven't located it yet, you should find as a speech bubble icon in the bottom right or top right hand corner of the screen. Sometimes it even says chat, which is especially helpful. But that's the place to post questions and comments as they come to you, and I know that we'll get to those with Martin later on in the session. But Martin, can I check that you're still there and you can hear me okay? And also that I can ask you to tell us a bit about this fascinating innovation around fishing nets.
Hello, hopefully you can hear me okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well that's a good start. Thank you very much, Seb, for the introduction. As Seb said, I'm Martin Charter from the Centre for Sustainable Design at the University for the Creative Arts. We are a centre focused on sustainable innovation, product sustainability. Was set up in 1995. What I'm particularly going to talk to you today is about a project we are involved in called Circular Ocean, which is an EC-funded project effectively dealing with issues related to the collection, recycling and potential reuse of fishing net materials and fishing nets and ropes into products. That is particularly focused on the so-called northern periphery area, so effectively Scandinavia, north of Scotland, and as far as places like Iceland. So, without further ado, I will move on. So again, that's me, and that's the website if you're interested in more information on the Circular Ocean project. We've got an active series of events that will be going on throughout Europe and other activities that I'll mention later. So anyway, big number to start with. There are 640,000 tons of fishing nets and ropes at least going into the sea each year. This is a stat that the UN Food and Agriculture Organization and UNEP came up with in 2009. But the work within the project is starting to indicate that this may be even an underestimate. So there's a significant amount of primarily plastics going into the oceans, which the Elaine MacArthur Foundation have also produced a broader report around this particular issue. So anyway, the root causes of these nets and ropes going into the seas are, abandonment, discarding. Nets are lost, and this is, from a range of different reasons. So there's a challenge there. It's a challenging, job being a fisherman, being in the fishing industry, and particularly, nets and ropes are going into the sea because of entanglement, and a range of other issues. So this is typically what you're seeing is a whole mix of different types of net, different types of mesh sizes, different types of colors, different types of materials. Some are organized, some are not. Particularly the main issue that's getting a lot more concern is the whole area of so-called ghost gear. So there's the floating of nets under the sea or in so-called gyres, linked with other forms of marine plastic waste, bottles, etc., packaging. And particularly we're seeing more and more evidence of destruction of wildlife, or killing of wildlife, birds, mammals, etc. So it's a big growing issue. And what we've seen emerge over the last three plus years is a series of different organisations, starting to raise awareness of these issues. And we have the World Animal Protection's Global Ghost Gear Initiative that is looking to raise awareness. They have a series of work groups around different issues, looking at solutions that we're particularly partnering with, but also data collection and other issues. Also, there is another collaborative organisation called Parley for the Oceans, who's based in New York, that is also working with a range of organisations to come up with new solutions, notably, particularly Adidas, and I'll come back to that. We also have Healthy Seas. That's a sort of partnership collaboration between Aquafil, again, who I'll come back to, Starshox, and a Dutch research stroke NGO called ECNC. So we're seeing a range of just organisations starting to raise awareness of these issues. Those are just a couple. Some are purely from an NGO background, some are sort of partnering with organisations. I'm trying to move the slide here. Right, and also what we've started to see is a series of projects now looking to try and look at developing new solutions around, the problem of nets. We've seen an EC-funded project called Upcycling the Ocean that's led by an organisation called EcoAlf, and this has particularly looked at how to clean up marine litter, including fishing nets and ropes, particularly in the Mediterranean area. And EcoAlf is producing products, again, from the materials that they're collecting. Retrol, this is a €2 million project, EC funded again, looking particularly at mechanical recycling solutions around fishing nets and ropes. This is again, I just want to sort of show you typically what is happening, where the nets are starting to be collected and prepared for recycling and reuse. You have, it's quite heavy work. These nets can be, extremely large. Some of these nets are also coated with antifoulants that include copper and other compounds that are a challenge in relation to the recycling process. Often our coating nets high quality nylon to try and decrease degradation of the nets, particularly in commercial fishing. But that's another element of the complexity of this particular area. What we've started to look at in the project is try and identify new product areas or activities that are already going on in relation to the potentially what I'm terming the end life use, or the second, third life use of those nets. It can be very simple, or extending the life of those nets and ropes. So that can be very simple. It can be, in the fishing communities and port areas, there are already systems where the fishermen and others are repairing the nets, and we're also seeing specialist specialist services that are available to repair nets, and even some net manufacturers offering repair services. We also potentially see the opportunity to just simply cut out sections from the nets and make football nets, golf nets, cricket nets, and particularly looking to see if we could develop projects in the south of India, and where India's crazy about cricket and there's a lot of fishing nets. Surely that'd be a great opportunity down there. So nets, but also there are other applications for the nets in construction products and other areas, just a straight reuse, cutting section out of nets and reusing. There's also businesses emerging in the logistics and reverse logistics of the nets, and particularly an organisation called Norvia, who's an associate partner in the project. We also see, apart from mechanical recycling of the nets, which there is a particularly specialist company in Denmark called Plastics Global, we have a company called Aquafil based in Italy, who have developed a fiber called Econyle that effectively and then repolymerizes particularly nylon and nylon 6 nets into new fiber. And we're seeing those fibers from Aquafil and the Econyle fiber and from others go into a range of different products in the market. What we're also starting to see is some organizations starting to explore the use of the plastics from the nets and ropes, or the polymers from the nets and ropes, into fuel. And a number of organizations are working on that, and particularly in fishing communities that are struggling sometimes. This may also be an option if you can't have a pure reuse or value added use of the plastics and polymers. So this is also starting to emerge. Econyle have got this whole system in place. They've invested a lot in the technology to and repolymerize the nets. And this is now the Econyle fiber is going into a whole range of different products. Notably, part of within their Healthy Seas initiative, it's going into socks, for example.
Sorry to interrupt, Martin. We just had a question, just a clarification point,
sure.
Perhaps on this from Aisha. She just asked, can the recovered nets be used as fishing nets? And perhaps what it might lead you to is explaining maybe why that isn't the case and why maybe it's a better option to repurpose them in other ways.
Well, one area is that clear you can, if the nets come back and they're not damaged at all, clearly you can clean them up and reuse them, and that's in effect what happens in many instances. It's not a one-off use. One of the areas that we're finding is a challenge is there's very little data on the end of life of nets. The only country in Europe, in fact, we've found so far in the world, is Norway, who are developing very good information systems to monitor in a sense, reuse and reuse. So ultimately, yes, of course, you want to reuse the net straight. It is likely that the nets may get damaged, so this is why you need to repair. But what effectively is happening is we go back to that big figure at the beginning, 640,000 tons of nets and ropes are floating around in the ocean or going to the bottom of the sea. So that's part of what our particular project is trying to do, is recover those nets, reuse them if we can back into nets, but often they're damaged. So we may need to look at other purposes. So hopefully that's partially answered your question.
Yeah. Thanks, Martin.
What we're seeing is also other personalities seeming to get very interested in this particular area of ocean waste. And we see Pharrell Williams, the Mr. Happy singer. He's partnered in a product or a company that is producing something called bionic yarn that's using ocean waste as plastic as a core within a particular type of yarn that is then being used in G-Star Raw fashion brand. So again, this is a very interesting innovation. It's a small company that started, and then Pharrell Williams heard about it, and I think he's got involved as the creative director, and they're starting to utilize these brands. An issue that may start to emerge more is with some of these fibers, or particularly with a bionic yarn, they're mixing, in a sense, the plastic sometimes with cotton, so that the bio products, the technical products. So perhaps some of these materials are not the solution. It's a stepping stone to the future, in the sense that you still need to separate out the materials at the end of life. If, for example, you've got a pair of socks that's got, nylon from nets mixed with cotton and elastomer, when the socks come to the end of life, you've still got to develop systems to separate those materials. And I think we're still in a journey here. So we also have another company here called Fourth Element, and they're again using nylon through a particular brand called Ocean Positive. So they're using the nylon back into swimming, gear in a sense, and then we have Eco-Nile going into other swimming products. We have a small company called Riz Board Shorts, who again is using, I'm not sure if they're using nets, but I know they're using bottles into very well designed, board shorts that have their own individual patterns. And again, that's a UK company, for example. Again, as I mentioned earlier, you have this very proactive brand in Spain called EcoAlf, who's involved in the project, EC-funded project, collecting the nets in the Mediterranean. And they've also got a very strong fashion brand where they're producing outdoor clothing and equipment, and are incorporating marine waste, including the fishing nets, into a range of products. And they've even got their own little icons to show where the different types of materials are used. Again, other celebrities getting involved. This is Kelly Slater. He's apparently, I'm not a surfer, but he's won the World Surfing Championship 10 plus times, as far as I understand it. And he's got his own brand that, again, he's using the fibers, I think, working in partnership with Eco-Nile, again, to use his own fashion brand. We even got sort of niche green companies, Ecover, for example. They've used their ingenuity to try and tackle the ocean waste problem, or bring their own ingenuity to the problem, and have developed packaging that they're now using in a number of their products. So this is part of the new breed of companies that are looking at how they can make a difference, I believe. So again, you've got another company called Fish Pond, who've developed their own brand called Cycle Pond, that they're using nets back into all sorts of outdoor equipment, backpacks, etc. Similarly, Klagemusen in Sweden, again, using the nets back into a range of outdoor equipment, again, including backpacks. And again, perhaps the most recently notable example of the experimentation, but also the challenges, is Adidas, who basically a few years ago tried to start to make training shoes using ocean plastic, including fishing nets, and they had a few struggles. They then developed a midsole using gill nets through 3D printing, but they seem to have recently made quite a major jump, and announced literally a few days ago that they just launched, and as far as I understand it, I checked the site again today, they claim that they've produced, working with Parley for the Oceans, they've produced and sold now 7,000 shoes that are including 95% ocean plastic waste and 5% recycled polyester. So they've obviously made some quite large technical jumps very recently. And they now have a goal to launch 1 million of these trainers next year. So it'll be very fascinating to find out precisely how they are, producing the near 100%, the trainers using near 100% material. So, so quite a lot of interesting innovation going on behind the scenes here. Also, Adidas, again, to highlight the issue, they've also, in partnership with Parley for the Ocean, have also partnered with Bayern Munich and Real Madrid, where in recent games in the German and Spanish leagues, both Bayern Munich and Real Madrid wore shirts using with fibers derived from ocean plastics and fish nets and rods. So again, the issues are starting to rise in the public domain. A very interesting company that we know and I met in a recent trip to Santiago in Chile is Burio. 3 US-trained mechanical engineers, one of whom retrained in environmental sciences in Sweden and then moved to Chile, effectively saw the problems associated with fishing nets, ropes, and nets, and said effectively, well, it probably wasn't as simple as this, but could we make skateboards out of the polymers? And indeed, that's what they've done. And they produce in Chile using injection molding techniques, and then they're exporting worldwide, but also particularly from a broader sustainability perspective, thinking environmentally, socially, economically. They developed this net positiva model where they're working very closely with fishing communities to collect and clean and distribute the nets to their recyclers and manufacturing facilities. So again, the fishing communities are participating in the process, deriving also income from Burio that is being invested back into those communities in terms of projects. So it's a very integrated model. And they are working particularly on a whole range of other initiatives that will be launched over the next 3 months or so. Another leadership organization who's also involved in this issue is Interface, who started their journey in the mid-90s around trying to climb Mount Sustainability, particularly started initially on manufacturing, but then looked in the mid-2000s more at products. And they developed their Networks project where, again, they're working with a range of organisations, including the Zoological Society of London, and I understand also Aquafil and Econile, to effectively produce a range of carpet tiling products utilising fishing nets, plastics derived from fishing nets and ropes. So again, another application. And there are other companies in the flooring sector that are also looking at this area. So,
another quick point of clarification on that, Martin. From the questions coming from Gemma Jones, just about whether there's any collaboration between these different examples, whether there's any crossover, whether they're all happening sort of individually.
Difficult question. Well, behind a number of from our research to date, and we've been involved in this particular project for about 12 months, is that the Econile fibre is being supplied to a range of different organisations that are using, that are applying it in a range of products, clothing, carpet tiles, etc. And a number of these organisations are engaging with things like Parley for the Ocean, also the other initiatives that I mentioned, the Global Ghost Gear Initiative and others. So there is some level of collaboration going on. There's a bit of background noise going on. Sorry, I think maybe somebody tapping on the screen. So there is collaboration going on, but there's also people seeking commercial business opportunities from this, and effectively look at how they can transform a waste into a product and create jobs, etc., etc. So multiple reasons why people are getting involved, but need for more collaboration, and I'll come on to that also in a short while. So anyway, one of the key issues within the project is that we've also been looking at different ports and fishing communities, particularly in Norway and Greenland, Scotland and Ireland. And clearly, one of the things that we need to look at if we're going to mobilise the collaborations more effectively is to look at developing and perhaps more effectively coordinating innovation systems in ports. So trying to connect the recyclers of the nets, the collectors, recyclers of the nets, with entrepreneurs, maybe with local authorities, maybe with maker spaces and maybe local universities and colleges, effectively to create better systems to translate any good ideas into products. So this is an area we're going to be exploring in more detail in the project. How do we do this? because at the moment, there aren't very well organised systems. And this sort of links into, one of the other broader areas that we've been looking at within the centre over the last 5 years ago, is what I'm terming the emergence of what I term Industry 1.0. That is a more, I believe, a grassroots innovation movement that's starting to happen that is more decentralised, potentially more low carbon and potentially more circular. And this has been driven by the emergence of a new set of makers, modifiers and fixers. So this is some broad trends, but still are potentially appropriate for this, how we create products from the nets and ropes. So the emergence of a new group of makers, modifiers and fixers. And this has been enabled by massive access to information. There's so much information there on the web if you're really interested to find stuff out. But particularly what I've started to separate out from that is particularly now, if you are thinking of making, modifying, fixing or repairing products, we've got, a huge proliferation now of videos from YouTube, from Vimeo, showing how to make, modify and fix stuff. And again, without bringing in a cliche, a picture speaks 1,000 words. If you can see just the idea of how to make, modify, or fix something, this can give you the first idea of how to do something. So this, I believe, is also an enabler of starting to be able to do things yourself as an individual or groups of companies, or groups of individuals in organizations or in new networks. So also Web 2.0, people sharing information, working in different ways. Again, online sessions like this, starting to move out from the large companies into, new tools that people are using in different ways. We also seeing the advent of sourcing from the crowd, both sourcing ideas from the crowd, but also funding, crowdfunding. Again, post-2008 didn't really exist before the economic crash. But we're now seeing, very interesting ideas that are starting to be funded through crowdfunding. So this is, this is an example, not fishing nets and ropes, but again, this is something called Flow Hive. It's a father and son that basically developed a beehive that you can tap honey. They raised in a relatively short time $3.2 million US, 17,000% over their target. So again, this is people wanting to contribute to good projects. Some of this may be philanthropic, some of it may be, they like the idea, they want to, get a return on it, but basically things starting to happen in different ways. Also now, people are open sourcing designs and IP. An example we saw from one of our events, a hackerspace in Reading. They had a broken stroller, baby stroller. They outsourced, they open sourced a mission component from the stroller, 3D printed the stroller, repaired the product, and the product's back in use. So again, enabling product life extension. Again, the significant growth over the last 5 to 10 years of maker spaces, hacker spaces, and repair cafes. Now, for example, over 1,200 repair cafes in the world launched only 5-6 years ago. And I know quite a lot about this because we did the first global survey on this, and I actually also run one. So again, places and spaces where people are coming together to make, modify, and fix, and connect physically. We also see the continued evolution of 3D printing technologies, additive manufacturing, increasing work being done on the use of biopolymers and the use of recycled materials. We even have the first overt company that is in fact crowdfunding at the moment called Fishy Filaments, that's producing, claiming to produce filaments using waste plastic polymers from nets and ropes. So this whole area, we've also been doing some testing in this area as well ourselves, and found some very interesting results that we'll be sharing through Circular Ocean. We also, as another enabler, again, on that line, you don't have to own your own 3D printer now. There is 3D hubs that exist that can identify in a radius of certain places who owns a 3D hub, so you can potentially go and network with that person, maybe share some time on that 3D printer, experiment, etc., and collaborate as per the original question. We're also starting to see the emergence of what I call DIY machines that are enabling people to make, modify, and fix using recycled materials. So we've got Bifusion that's using plastic waste to make building products. We've got a project that's spun out from the Royal College of Art that effectively used the Candiphos process to fluff up plastics, so potentially to reutilize, waste plastics, maybe in installation, for example. We're seeing Better Future Factory, who's also using 3D printing technology using recycled plastics. And also a very innovative guy called Dave Hackens, who's developed something called Phone Blocks, which is a modular phone product, but also has developed a totally open source series of machines effectively to injection mold products using waste plastics. I haven't seen any of these technologies using waste fission plastics, but to me, there's no particular reason if you can use bottles, waste plastic bottles to enable products to pop out at the end, maybe you can use nets and ropes. What we've also been looking at through another project is new business models around circular economy. And there is a lot of literature out there around sustainable, green and circular business models that has emerged over the last sort of particularly 5 years or so. And through a new standard that we've been involved, or I've been involved in the core team of with EMF are also involved in this, called BS 8001. We've distilled down a lot of these business models into 6 types of business models. These models basically look at producing these models, circular business models, effectively look at opportunities for organizations to re-engineer existing business models, particularly if they're older businesses, but also for disruptive innovators. There's an important distinction to be made between business models that are effectively about whole company approaches to creating value for customers compared to enablers. So 3D printing is an enabler, for example, unless your business is 3D printing. So one type of business model is on demand. So this is, for example, producing products on demand just in time. So it might be, could you develop a business model where you produced fishing nets as you needed in the ports? Another type of business model that has circular economy implications is digitization. So shifting from physical products to virtual products, from vinyl to iTunes, for example. Some of this product service aspect is quite complicated. We haven't got time to go in that today. But this is one of the business models that one can explore. Haven't quite found an appropriate linkage to fishing nets and ropes for this. What we found is also reuse. So effectively, product life extension to reuse, so repair services for the nets and ropes, remanufacturing and manufacture from secondary materials. So, for example, Burio, taking the plastics, producing filaments and materials from this, and injection molding into new products, i.e. the skateboards and sunglasses. Products as a service, well, what about shifting from physically selling the products to leasing the products? And maybe a sharing economy model is groups of people in fishing communities, renting the nets and collaborating and sharing the use of those nets in different models. So new business models emerging. Within Circular Ocean, I'm just going to give you a couple of quick examples of some of the things that we're doing. and some of the things we'd be very happy to collaborate with people on. We've particularly been looking at collecting examples of companies that are involved in producing products from the nets and ropes, and we're very interested in fishing nets and ropes, so we're particularly interested to hear from anybody around that. We're doing analysis of the port areas to understand a lot more about the issues in ports. We've also got a range of innovation activities going on, including workshops, particularly one that we'll be organising in Iceland next year. And there's a range of other support activities that we're going to be able to provide to organisations, particularly in the Northern Periphery area. And as part of our development activities, particularly in the innovation area, we organised very recently something called the NetHack Challenge, and you can access, if you're interested in this, details of this through the hashtag NetHack Challenge. So we partnered with the postgraduate school at UCA, with the Global Ghost Gear Initiative and MCB Seafoods to produce a hack around the use of fishing nets and ropes. And this included a range of multidisciplinary designers and makers in ceramics, jewellery, product design, textiles, etc. So a very multidisciplinary group with a number of others. And effectively, we set a series of 8 challenges that were set by 8 organisations in terms of the reuse of the nets into products. And this was introduced to the students. Briefings were, developed and shared. And basically, the students then started to move through a process that I call Green Thinks, to start to generate new ideas and develop concepts and go away and research the ideas, test the concepts in the town before, then having MCB Seafoods deliver the nets. And it was like a bake-off moment where the ingredients were delivered. And the master's students, who are all very experienced, loved to actually physically see the nets. And then they went off into the workshops to try and create and physically make their products. And they developed, they shared skills because you had multidisciplinary teams working together, i.e. product designers, ceramicists and jewelers. And then at the end, they created a series of 3D models, all within just over a day. So one of these things was a cushion, outdoor cushion related product that used a weaved outside and monofilament indoors that might be used in bars maybe. Something called a universal strap that might be used, have many applications. Also tiling products, and also very interesting, a series of lighting products as well. So these were all developed in a very short time scale. It shows that in the right process, we can apply creativity and develop, very good ideas. And these ideas are now being taken forward with the challenges to try and take these to the next stage. And this process is where further will be evolving, particularly for our Iceland event. So effectively, our project and what we're doing is all about how we can, find new uses both for recycling of the nets, the collection of the nets, but also to create new products from those effectively waste materials. And, it's a very emergent area. It's a very fascinating area because it's very interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, but there's a lot of very interesting initiatives going on. So thank you very much for your time and patience, and very happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Martin. That's really fascinating. I think something that struck out to me was just, and I think it was actually commented on also in the chat window, is just how much is happening, and that suggests, I guess, that there's an opportunity for innovation there, and that there is a use for this material. I mean, one question just from me, actually, before we have some really great questions, thank you for sending those in, was how economic is this sort of waste collection, and what sort of form does it actually take? Is it people going out in boats and collecting it, or what sort of collection mechanisms are there, and are there any cost challenges associated with them?
Well, there's a range of approaches that are going on, from beachcombers that are collecting nets and ropes that are just washing up on the seashore, and informal systems, happening. For example, Fathoms Free is one diving NGO that is doing this, and they're looking at ways, for example, could they collect the material? Could they, even develop shredding technologies and injection molding technologies that might even be used in the beaches to create products directly there? So that's from the informal right through to MCB Seafoods, who effectively have got partnership. They're a business, and it is a sort of interesting disruptive innovation example. Their main business is effectively selling fish to restaurants and other catering organisations. But the leadership of the company has seen growing sustainability issues around fisheries going beyond sustainable sourcing of fish, and took the initiative to say, well, why don't we actually partner with the fishermen to start to collect the nets? So their main business is not recycling. They have taken this on board as a positive initiative, and effectively they've got a system in place to collect in the south coast of England, but they're also looking more broadly. The Healthy Seas initiative is partnering with a whole series of ports, and particularly also the other key player is Novia, who is a joint venture between a net manufacturer and a waste management company set up in 2008 in Norway, who are working with a whole series of ports to collect the nets and then go through a series of processes to then distribute to Aquafil for Econal and other materials. So yes, some organisations are finding economic models for this, particularly, there seems to be a very well-organised process for the Econal, and they've invested a lot of money in their activities. But there is also a lot of startups in the area. Yeah. And actually, in re-researching for this event, however, some of the companies like Klagemusen, they and others have actually been incorporating the nets into their products since the late 2000s. But it is, again, very fragmented. I've been in the sustainability area for 25, 30 years. And what you find often when you look at an area is you fairly quickly come to 5 or 10 key organisations that are the source of activities and thinking and innovation or whatever. But in this area, it's very fragmented. A lot of players.
Got a question here from Aisha, which I guess is a little bit about the manufacturers. And she asks, you mentioned manufacturers who repair them. Are these the ones that recover from the oceans or ones that have been returned without having been littered? Can you give us an example of such a manufacturer? And then she further asks, are there any examples where the manufacturers of the nets themselves are being engaged in addition to sort of these communities and NGOs?
Okay, well, this is very live, something we're starting to explore because, as I've said, let's say I would characterise the first phase of research in this area as being much more around trying to identify the problems. So 640,000, tons of nets and ropes, etc., etc. So it's been more identifying the problem. We've found very little work so far on the business models aspect of this. So this is what we're looking at. So we believe some large net manufacturers are offering, take back and repair services, but this is being presently repaired, even researched. We have found, or I have found, as part of trying to look at this issue of the anti-foulants, and indeed we're running something in Scotland called a chem hack to look at new solutions for the washing of the anti-foulants from the nets. I found a company that offers services to add the anti-foulants to the nets, that is also offering a repair service for repair of nets. So again, it seems to be quite fragmented. There are people doing this, but let's say watch this space. This is something we're actually researching right at the moment because we've not found clear sources of information. What I will also say in the sector it's a sector because it is very fragmented, is you have to talk to a lot of people to find the consensus. So a lot of people that seem to have their own understanding of the issue, but there is also a lot of different views. So again, this illustrates it's a very fragmented area.
Great. We've got not very much time left. There's just a couple of more comments to sneak in here. I mean, Aisha sort of expanded a bit on what she said. She said we're talking about innovation to do with a waste stream, when maybe the ultimate aim should be to prevent these things from being discarded, abandoned, lost in the first place. So I think is a very fair point. So I think that really links to our point about the manufacturer engagement. I don't know.
I do. I mean, our particular project is focused on dealing with the 640,000 tonnes. However, of course, the issue is how do you prevent it in the first place? Two issues there. A big source of the ocean plastic waste is particularly in Southeast Asia. It's because of very poor waste management in a number of the countries out in that region. You've just got a lot of plastic waste going straight into the oceans. This isn't just the fishing nets and ropes that are being discarded. This is bottles and empties. So there's a need for much better waste management. But also, one of the areas that we're going to look at within the project is, could you develop new innovations within first life nets? So could you develop modular nets that are easier to repair? Could you develop nets that somehow were smart and they're able to disassemble at the end of life? Using innovative thinking, such as thinking around shape memory plastics and alloys that are used in things like glasses, where there's they have a memory in the material, that maybe you could use that in some form to, change the composition of nets so they're easier to repair and extend the life of. So absolutely, it's both a prevention issue, but also there's an issue about how you change a culture of waste into a culture of, materials reuse.
Great. And then this final questions come from Felix. And he asked, of all the different sort of options, how do you decide, how do you evaluate them and quantify them? Are there life cycle assessments on them? Are some better than others in terms of environmental impact or, economic feasibility, I guess, as well? I might throw in them for mine.
It's a very good question, and indeed, again, watch this space. Our partners from the Norwegian Technical University are looking at exactly this issue. So this has been completed there, but also Burio have been working with the Harvard University on a life cycle analysis of their skateboards. So again, watch the space there at Burio. They're going to be making some very interesting announcements around that and other issues into the future. So it is a very good question, but also it's again, as I indicated, it's still a very live area. A lot of work to be done. Collaboration is absolutely needed, and we're very happy to, ourselves are at the centre and through Circular Ocean to discuss opportunities with different stakeholders. Great.
Well, thank you so much for that, Martin. Really appreciate it. I don't know if you have any final words or comments for the audience, but really appreciating your insight and time to discuss these issues with us.
As I said, it is a live project. We've got about 2 years to go on the project, so as indicated, there's a lot of interest. Please email me. Please access circularocean.eu at website and contact the the Secretariat if you wish. I'd also should highlight that we've already received the EC Regio Regional Stars Award as a People's Choice. So people are very interested in this as well. The citizens are very interested because there's this emotional attachment to the issue. So please come to us with ideas and innovation, and we will respond to you.
Great. Thanks so much, man. And yeah, I mean, I can understand why there would be this emotional reaction to it. I mean, thinking about 600,000 plus tons going to the ocean each year, it's a startling number. So yeah, so thank you Zoe once again to Maya. Thank you so much to our audience members, especially the ones who were asking some of those very interesting questions as well. That is the end of this session, but it certainly isn't the end of the Disruptive Innovation Festival. Today is the final day of week 2 of 3. Take care, Martin. We have at 11 o'clock today a session called How Designers Can Shape the Future. Maybe we can, in that session, the panelists will discuss how we can design fishing nets better to be reutilized more effectively. At 1 p.m. we have Automated and On-Demand, a vision for the future of mobility. At 3 p.m. we've got some more sort of design thinking, talking about mycelium and mushroom material utilization, how it's increasing. We've got members of Ecovative presenting that session. That's just 3 out of many sessions we have today, and there are many more available to watch on Catch Up as well. So do toggle to the thinkdiff.co/schedule, see what you've missed, see what you can catch up on. Lots available in there, and yeah, keep engaging with us on the Diff. We've got these great interactive graphics where you can shape the future, or offer your thoughts on the future of all sorts of things, from learning to disruptive technologies. So yeah, engage with us, catch up on things you've missed, and attend some of today's live sessions. Thank you once again, and thanks again to Martin.